Some NASCAR news today coming out about Todd Gilliland's future at Front Row Motorsports. Some information about the Money Team and their Daytona 500 entry. And Denny Hamlin still has some concerns with the next-gen car. Talked about that on his brand new podcast, actually. He has a podcast with Dale Jr.'s media company with their whole lineup of podcasts. You got the Dale Jr. Download. You got the Spotters one, which I can't remember the name of. And now you've got Denny Hamlin's podcast. So Denny Hamlin now in that rotation. I'm sure there's a few more, but Denny Hamlin kind of giving his thoughts still on the next-gen car. But let's start out with Todd Gilliland. I'm not going to lie, this is a tough one. Todd Gilliland, he raced in the number 38 for Front Row Motorsports last year. It was his first full-time season with them. He was a rookie as well, I believe. And he had 2 top 10s on the year. He even had a top 5. I believe that was at the Indianapolis Road Course. He had a really good run there. And, I mean, honestly, he didn't do terrible. I mean, he didn't light the world on fire, but it's kind of hard to light the world on fire when you're in a front row car. I mean, no disrespect, but, you know, they're not exactly a top-tier team. I'd probably put them in that 20 to 25th place range. Now, Michael McDowell, his teammate, had a career year. He had his career high in top 10s, had a really good season. Whereas Gilliland, sure, he didn't do as good, but he's a rookie and you're comparing him to a longtime veteran of NASCAR. It's kind of hard to compare. And also the fact that it's front row also makes it harder. Well, it was announced today that Todd Gilliland, he would not be completely booted out of the 38 car, but he would lose some races as the primary driver. He will only be in for 31 races. Zane Smith, it was announced last year that he would be running the Daytona 500 in a few races, but they didn't say what car number. They didn't say any more specifics, but it was expected for him to be the 36. There was, a couple years ago, they had an extra car at Front Row Motorsports, and the 36 was the car. So 34, 36, 38. Makes sense. Anyways, it was announced today that Zane Smith in the Daytona 500 would run the number 36 in the Daytona 500, but that he would also get 5 additional races in the number 38 car, meaning Todd Gilliland will only be in 31 races this year. You may say, only 31 races? That's a ton of races. A lot of people would kill to race that much in the Cup Series. Yes, that is true, but I have a little bit of a problem with it. Now, obviously, Zane Smith is a young, up-and-coming driver. He won the Truck Series championship last year with Front Row. He's had a great last couple of seasons. He's made the championship 4 a few times. He's a really, really good race car driver who is slowly making his way up into, some of the best in NASCAR. As I said, the Truck Championship and now getting Cup Series starts is a big deal. But it's at the expense of Todd Gilliland. Here's my problem with it. The 38 car has lacked consistency in terms of having a driver in that car and developing that driver. It has nothing to do with straight up performance. Sure, you could say that there's a little inconsistency if you wanted to, but here's the thing. 2020, 2021, 2022. How many drivers do you think were in that car for the entire season? You guess 1 or 2. 3 drivers in 3 seasons. John Hunter Nemechek was in the car in 2020, and he actually opted to leave and go to the Truck Series to be in a more competitive ride, and he ended up being very good at Kyle Busch Motorsports. Then in 2021, it was Anthony Alfredo in the car, and he obviously did not make it. He did not do well enough for their being, I guess, and they opted to move Todd Gilliland, who was in their Truck Series program, up to the Cup Series. And now Todd Gilliland hasn't lost his ride, but he's lost his chance at making the playoffs. He's lost his full-time ride, essentially. 31 races is still a lot of races, yes, but it's got to be a confidence killer if you're a driver to get replaced, essentially, just for a handful of races for a younger guy. That's got to hurt. It doesn't matter who you are. So I feel like, I know it's a lot of money to open up a new team. Even if it's part-time, you're not guaranteed in the field, but I don't know anything about specifics, so I really shouldn't be, saying, you should. But, at what point do you just make a third team for 6 races or however many races you want to do for Zane Smith? Yes, You do it in the Daytona 500 because the Daytona 500 pays the biggest. It's got the biggest purse. Sponsors pay the most for that race because it's the most viewed. It's the most prestigious race in NASCAR. So, yeah, they can afford the 13 for that. As for, if they wanted to throw them in a Kansas race or Dover, throw them in at Nashville, you're not going to get that kind of viewership and exposure that the sponsors want. So, it's more difficult, but still, I feel bad for Todd Gilliland. It sucks what's happening here. As I said, it's front row, so, you can't have the highest expectations. Like, you can't expect him to go out there and get 20 top 10s, 10 top 5s, compete for a win or two. Like, the realistic expectations are going to be 5 top 10s probably, and maybe a couple top 5s. Maybe. And if you're going to win, it's going to be on a super speedway. Front row only has 2 wins in their history, both at super speedway. So it sucks for Todd Gilliland, but on the other side of it, it's really good for Zane Smith. As I said, he's moving up the ranks. He's done extremely well in the truck series. He's looking to make his mark, and he's going to get some experience behind a cup car. So good for him. Excited for him, but I just think it sucks for Todd Gilliland. The next discussion is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, as I said at the beginning of this video, has his own new podcast.
The bumper tag still hurts. I don't feel anything softer. I know that that's something that NASCAR might be still testing, is softer bumpers itself. Man, we need it really bad. Once you start bumper tagging into corners, your Hans locks out and you can feel a jar in your head. Yeah, it's still pretty abrupt. And, I talked about how I feel today. I've never felt as bad. Again, I had both sides knocked off, both bumpers knocked off. I don't know if mine's carbon monoxide or what, but it's you were on the plane with me. I was up in the pilots. I put on their mask. I'm like, I need oxygen. I'm like, I don't feel well at all, and I still right now I don't feel good at all.
He talked about the race weekend at the LA Coliseum. As both an owner and as a driver, majority as a driver, what he saw, what he experienced out there. Talked about his incident with Ross Chastain, talked about getting moved out of the way by the car he owns, all of that stuff, but also talked about safety concerns. One of the biggest news stories of 2022 was the safety of the next-gen car. We saw 2 guys sit out a good chunk of races because of concussions from backing into the wall. Kurt Busch missed almost half the season, and essentially it ended his career. Alex Bowman missed 4 or 5, maybe more races, and it ended his playoff chances. So there was a lot of questions in the offseason about the safety of the next-gen car, last season and into the offseason, and what changes NASCAR were going to make. NASCAR did make some changes to the cars. They made some changes in the chassis. They made some changes in the rear of the car. There's this little segment on Fox Sports that talked about it in the pre-race show with Larry McReynolds, just about the rear chassis, the central part of the car. There were some things that were changed just to kind of lessen the blow, I guess, to the drivers because it's a stiffer car. So the car, it doesn't look as heavy as an impact, I guess, but the drivers take it all in. And that's what was causing it. Some drivers talked about how their biggest hits in their career were last year in those cars, and they just looked like ordinary crashes. I mean, Bowman's crash that he got his concussion in, it looked like nothing. So there was all that safety talk, and then Denny Hamlin comes out today on his podcast and talks about how it still hurts. He was talking about bumper tagging. There was a lot of bumper-to-bumper contact in this race this past Sunday. Guys, the only way you could really pass was bumping someone out of the way. And when there's a lot of stack-ups and people are just jamming into the back of you, the back of the car has been the issue. You're getting jerked forward. It's like getting rear-ended in a street car, essentially. I think. I don't know what it's like to get rear-ended in a street car, but still, you get hit and you essentially do that, and that's the Hans device locking up because your head, and that's the whole purpose of the Hans device, is to keep your head, neck safe. Supposed to support you so you don't, break your neck or something, or your skull, something like that. So essentially there is still a lot of impact, even in just the common bumping into someone. We go to Daytona next, which is known for high speed, big crashes. So Yeah, but Hamlin did say he thinks NASCAR is still testing, still experimenting, trying to figure out a better solution. That this, whatever they did to the chassis, this seems like it's a temporary, I guess is what it sounds like, a temporary solution. But then maybe the carbon monoxide poisoning, I don't know what that was about. Like, he was talking about how he got hit in every fender and things were broken. I don't know what would have gotten broken and gotten the fumes in the car up into him, which is why he was feeling unwell and why he felt sick. But if that's a whole separate issue that needs to be resolved, oh my. Yeah, the last thing NASCAR needs is more safety issues with the next-gen car. Dealt with a lot last year. But yeah, it's not good. Definitely not good to still have these safety issues. Hopefully they can get them resolved. Hopefully, I don't know. But Denny Hamlin did not seem, I mean, he didn't seem as mad as last year, I guess, but he was still voicing concern, which concerns me. When the driver's voice concern, that's got to concern us as race fans. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to expect with the future of the next-gen car. Obviously, they're not going to trash it all together and go back to Gen 6s or anything, but it still sounds like some adjustments, some tweaks need to be made for the safety of the car. So we'll see what NASCAR does. We'll see how they respond. You know, Denny Hamlin, if he continues to be outspoken, other drivers continue to be outspoken, but hoping for a clean year. Hopefully no injuries, no concussions, anything like that. Cars can be safe, but we'll see. Daytona 500, just less than a couple weeks away. Heck, a week from tomorrow is qualifying for the Daytona 500, but yeah, we'll see. I got my full season preview coming up this weekend. I was going to do it Sunday, but now my championship pick hat is saying it's going to get here tomorrow, so I may do Saturday. I might actually just make a poll to see what you guys want, so look out for that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you feel informed. Other NASCAR news, Conor Daly, he's going to be racing the Daytona 500 for the Money Team. That is Floyd Mayweather's team. He has raced for them before. I think he raced at the Roval most recently, but yeah, there were rumors that they were going to get Helio Castroneves in that car, but ultimately they went with Conor Daly, someone they knew, so good for him. But anyways, have a good rest of your day. I can't think of any other news that's going on right now, and I will see you in the next video.